Hey, it's Leah, host of the Managing Made Simple podcast. I started working with Adam and his podcasting business accelerator program because I had a new podcast and I wanted to grow my show. So I looked on the podcast app under podcast growth or something like that. I found his show. I started listening and was instantly hooked. I loved the episode where he does the audit with folks. He gives so much value. And so I said, I got to work with this guy. And I reached out, we started the program, and immediately it became transformational, both in building a quality lead magnet, in really making clear offers that connect to my audience, that really give people exactly what they need as they go on that listener journey. And basically by listening to his show and becoming a client, I saw, wow, his method works. And he is so fun to work with, so awesome. Thank you, Adam, so much. I've just loved working with you.
What's up, Pod Pals? It's your buddy Adam, and you are listening to Podcasting Business School. It's a show where I teach podcasters simple strategies to help them earn more money with their online business. Yes, Pod Pals, I just changed the tagline to the show at episode 559. Today, we're talking about why your newsletter should be your best lead magnet. I'm really excited to dive deep into this topic. Let's unpack some strategy before I actually start teaching on this strategy, because I like to peel the layers back a little bit, as you all know. And first things first, this is our first week of one episode per week in I can't remember, maybe 3 years, 4 years. I have no idea. I started the show back in 2018. It may have been since 2018, 2019 that we've been doing 2 episodes a week. So, I unpacked that strategy a little bit a few episodes back, but the real thing we're shooting for here is less but better, and I'm leading by example, and I think you'll see this is a more robust Tuesday episode. This one's probably gonna be a little bit longer. I've got a lot of notes on this one. We're gonna unpack and deep dive quite a bit more because I only have to prepare one episode this week, so less but better. Now, this topic, why your newsletter should be your best lead magnet, I want to go behind the scenes a little bit, because when I teach this topic, and a lot of you are plugged into my newsletter, and you know I'm doing a workshop kind of on this topic in April 9th and 10th, Nashville, Tennessee, shameless promo. But you're like, why is he teaching all these things? I'm going to dive deep, and I'm basically going to teach you a lot of what I'm going to teach those people live that are paying me for that live experience. And I know that will confuse some of you. Why? Because you hear a lot oh, don't give up too much with your free content. Teach them the why and not the how. And I'm teaching you the how today. All right. I'm going to tell you why your newsletter should be your best lead magnet, but I'm also going to tell you kind of how to get it there. All right. And whenever you're, in my opinion, when you're creating podcast content, especially, or newsletter content, or both, I really like the idea. And I think it makes me stand out. I know it makes me stand out. I have people tell me this all the time. They're like, Adam, I like that I can listen to your show or read your newsletter or hear you speak on stage, and I get things to do. You don't float around the periphery and kind of dance around the topic and just do little jabs of information that that make me more curious and eventually want to hire you. I just go, here are the things that you want to do. Here are the things that I think you should do. And this is going to be one of those episodes. So what's my business strategy around this? For the people that are okay, I see all this and I want Adam's help with implementing correctly. I need help with implementation. That's what I'm doing with this group of people in April. We're going to sit down for 6 hours a day over 2 days, 12 hours, diving deep on this. So if you think this content is good today, imagine me sitting down with you in a small group for 12 hours, helping you build all of this out. That's the difference. That's what people pay me for. So don't be afraid. Just kind of pro tip from a veteran podcaster here. Don't be afraid to give up some good stuff with your content. That's going to make you stand out. I know you hear a lot of big name people with big audiences and big budgets and big teams. And they tell you teach the why, not the how. But sometimes teaching the how will create super fans, because you create somebody out there that just to implement and wow, I got a big win out of this. I have people that attend my free workshops. I actually got a really nice email from somebody a couple of weeks ago that was like, Adam, I want to let you know, I've never paid you $1. I went to one of your free workshops and they were doing 100 to 150 downloads an episode. And then now they're doing over 1,000 downloads an episode. And it took 2 months for it to kind of kick in and work. But she's like, this really works. And it was made a big difference. So, I'm sure down the road that person may spend some money with me because they already got that win. Like, oh, if this free stuff is this good, when I actually bring him to the table to work with me in one-on-one small group membership, whatever, then so I just want to kind of put that out there as a pre-message before I start teaching. Look at what I'm doing, look at how I'm doing it. And this is something that works for me as an independent podcaster, as a solopreneur. This strategy really does work. All right. And just as a call to action, because I got to have a call to action today. If you are somebody that is considering getting some help with implementation, hop on my podcast Profit Potential Discovery Call calendar. We can talk about working together. That link is in the show notes. All right, let's dive in. I'm going to make the case for your newsletter. All right. Actually, one more thing, one more quick thing, Pod Pals. Let's talk about the new tagline real quick. So forever, I think since 2018, pretty early in 2018, it was, welcome to Podcasting Business School. It's the show where I teach podcasters. I love the show like a hobby and build it like a business. And I wanted to get more specific. I've been really working on my branding, my tagline, my messaging, and getting very hyper specific. So I'm an online business coach for podcasters. And what I do is I teach podcasters simple strategies to help them earn more money with their online business. So I wanted to add that tagline to the show to kind of keep it top of mind. So that's why I switched it up, and that's what we're rolling with right now. Okay, now let's dive into the newsletter topic here. Now, the first thing we have to unpack is the difference between what is a newsletter versus an email funnel, email marketing, because it's different. Emails, email funnels, email marketing, that's in one bucket. A newsletter is in a different bucket. So that's step one. If you've been putting all that in one bucket, we need to reclassify our information here. So to me, a newsletter is 100 million% focused on giant value add, giant free value add, maybe 95% value add, 5% promotion in there. All right. So that's the huge difference. Emails, email funnels, email marketing, that's leading people down a trail towards becoming a customer or a specific objective. A weekly newsletter is just weekly giant value add audience nurturing, but I will give you some pro tips on how to sell from this, which work for me really well. All right. So that's the first key differentiating term is like, what is the difference between a newsletter and this other bucket? So that's where we start. Now I'm going to make my case for making your newsletter your best and maybe even your only lead magnet. I've kind of put my other lead magnets on the back burner as far as like the quick win lead magnets, like my podcast growth scorecard, things like that. They're still floating around out there. You can still access those, but if you go to my website, you'll notice that the 3 buttons, I still only have 3 buttons, but they have changed. So one says paid services. That's the same. One of them says discovery call. That's the same. But the one that used to say freebies is just a link to the newsletter because it is my absolute best freebie. It is my absolute best lead magnet. And by saying it's my absolute best, it's the absolute best thing for somebody that should be listening to my show or consuming my content. That's the best place for them to start, is what I mean by that. And it's high performing. So when it comes to making the case for why your newsletter should be your best lead magnet, maybe even your only focus lead magnet, is we have to focus on building and nurturing our email list as business owners. All right. And a high value weekly newsletter is a extremely fantastic way to do this. All right. So here's the thing that got me. I've been working with a newsletter coach, Mike Romaine, and this is the thing that won me over. And I think it'll hit a few of you right between the eyeballs on this one. So people who opt in to get your newsletter actually want to get emails from you. That is not true for any other lead magnet. Think about that. When they opt into your mini course, they opt into your scorecard, they opt into your downloadable PDF, they just want the thing. They're not asking to get a 12 email funnel from you. That leads to unsubscribes. That leads to poor open rates. All right. Imagine building your email list full of people that want to get emails from you. All right. Imagine what your open rate looks like. All right. So that's the best case I can make for leading with the newsletter versus like my podcast growth scorecard and things like that. All right. Now, hopefully I'm starting to kind of win you over. Let's talk about some pro tips for creating a really high value newsletter. All right. I've got several here, so prepare to take notes. So the first and most important thing is you got to create the newsletter that you love writing and you would love to read. I know some of you are like, newsletter, puke. And really, if that's you, then like, again, I'm not that guy that's going to tell you to do something 100% or not do something 100%. I'm just stating the case. I feel like a lot of you are ignoring your email list. I feel like a lot of you want to build your email list and you want to get customers and clients. And I'm just putting a simple strategy out there. Like the new tagline promises, this is a simple strategy where you can, knock out a couple of things with one whack here and go, all right, I'm going to write a weekly newsletter. I'm going to nurture my audience and build trust and build expert positioning. And I can sell from that. But also it can be the lead magnet that brings people into my world. All right. So you have to create the newsletter that you love writing and you'd love to read. We got to find the sweet spot. And this rule applies across all content. We have to find the sweet spot between the content that you want to create, that you're excited to create, and what your audience needs to learn from you. Like today, I sat down, I made notes for about 30 minutes, sipping my cold brew coffee, and I'm psyched. Like, I really want to create this episode for you. I'm pumped up about creating this very episode. I'm not like, oh God, I guess we better do this damn newsletter thing. No, I'm fired up. And I know that this is a topic of need for many of you. Email list building, audience nurturing, passive monetization, things like that. This is a big, heavy hitter topic for that a lot of you need to learn it and really sharpen the saw with. So this is a great example. Find the sweet spot between the content you are excited to create and what your audience needs to learn from you. That's the first pro tip. Next pro tip, you got to shoot for weekly if you can. I know you guys probably get tired of me here talking about weekly Yeah, I just got the weekly podcast episodes. Now I got to read a freaking newsletter every week. Yes, I'm asking for both. And again, less but better. For me, I'm like, all right, if you guys have been on my newsletter list, you've probably noticed the last month, 2 months, it's gotten bigger, I think better, more robust, more information. And it probably takes you maybe a couple of days to read through and absorb. I've been able to do that because I quit creating and spending time on video assets. YouTube, Reels, TikTok, all that. I just quit doing it. I put it on pause, like I talked about before, previous episodes. Did the whole less but better simplification filter. Those all go on pause. Now I can spend more time on this. So you have to weigh out like, all right, what are the results of me doing TikTok videos? If you're getting a ton of engagement and traction and clients, and don't stop doing what's working to do a newsletter. But if you're somebody that's like, I'm burnt out on social media, I kind of want to break free of the algorithm. Guess how we do that? We build our freaking email list and we communicate with those people on the email list and add value every single week. Here's the thing at PodFest that blew my mind. This was another thing that just really like, okay, I really need to get my act together with this newsletter thing. Even more, new level. I had people come up to me at PodFest and they go, oh, I read your newsletter every week. That was what they led with. All right. And I asked them, have you ever listened to my show? No, I just read your newsletter. Mind freaking blown. They didn't follow me on social media. They haven't listened to my show, audio. They just read my newsletter every week. Mind freaking blown. I was like, oh my God, this is a bigger deal than I thought. All right. So now we've got these two powerful content pillars. We got my audio show that you're listening to, and I appreciate you listening to that. And I've got the newsletter that's its standalone thing. That should be a goal. Like if people only consume this without clicking on any links and going anywhere, are they getting massive value? If not, you got to get better. That's what we're going to work on a little bit today. All right. So we're going to shoot for weekly newsletters if we can. Big value add. Next pro tip. You need to name your newsletter. Like especially when you're creating an opt-in page or things like that. Don't just be like, here's my newsletter. And like with an opt-in page, it just says subscribe to my newsletter, somewhere on your main website. That's probably not good enough. We're not going to be able to dive deep on that today. That's something that that just needs a lot of hands-on visuals and explaining. Like if you're coming to the workshop, we'll do all that there. But for starters, it's probably gonna be the same or similar to your podcast name. So as of right now, my newsletter is just called the Podcasting Business School Weekly Newsletter. I might change it. I don't know. I got to talk with Coach Mike Romaine about that, but that's a good place to start. Just name it the same thing as your show. We'll call it good for now. All right. Next pro tip. This newsletter, again, should be high value, super high value, and not a big promotional email. If you start writing and you're like, all I'm doing is talking about selling to this live event or my new book or whatever, that is email marketing. That is not a newsletter. All right. We have to know the difference. Next pro tip. Rarely sell directly. All right. But do use hyperlinks. What do I mean by this? If you got something that's like time sensitive or something that's coming up and you're kind of doing the countdown, I would have a little blurb in your newsletter where it's a blurb. It's a side note. Okay. So I got this workshop coming up. I've got I got a couple things coming up in April. I got the podcast growth coach certification, April 1st. Got the email marketing and email newsletter workshop, April 9th and 10th. And I've got a little blurb in my newsletter that just highlights those a little bit, but it's like 3 sentences. It's not the main focus. If people are interested, they can dive deeper on that. Now, there's a second part to this tip. Rarely sell directly, but do use hyperlinks. What do I mean by that? So anytime I mention any of my memberships, offers, whatever, passively, I hyperlink it to the sales page. Example, I have a segment of my newsletter where I post a client testimonial, whatever program they participated in. So let's say it's somebody from my online business academy for podcasters. And I got an awesome testimonial from somebody like Raina Rokiki, and she talks about it. And she's like, I joined the online business academy for podcasters because in the text, online business academy for podcasters, I highlight that, hyperlink it. When you click on those words, it goes to the sales page. All right. That wasn't a pitch. And think about it. Inside of a testimonial makes a lot of sense, right? There's somebody selling it for you. Let them sell it for you, hyperlink it. They can click on it. And I make sales like that all the time. All right. I didn't have to actively sell that thing. Okay. So rarely sell specifically, but do use hyperlinks. We'll talk about open rates and links and stuff here in a minute. Next pro tip for creating a high value newsletter. Use your PS section effectively. This is another thing I learned from Coach Mike. And I've tried different things. I experiment with different things. There's 2 kind of standards for the PS section that seem to work really well that all the pro newsletter people are doing that I'm learning from. One would be PS. If you're ready to get some help with whatever it is you help people with, here are blah, blah, blah ways that we can work together. And you list like 2, 3, 4 of your core offers and hyperlink them. All right. So that's one thing. What I'm currently doing, I did that for a little bit. Now I'm testing just to my discovery call. If you're ready to get some help with your podcast growth or online business strategies, sign up for my podcast profit potential discovery call. And I got a link to that. But use that PS section effectively. Like actually look at my newsletter. The next time you guys get it on a Thursday, look at it and go, okay, what's he doing with that PS section? Is that something I want to adapt for my strategy? It's just like my podcast, y'all. I know so many of you unpack what I'm doing. I get emails like, you didn't do the CTA thing at the beginning. You didn't, you haven't been running canned intros after the testimonial. I'm always trying different things. And I love that you guys are paying attention and you're trying to unpack it and apply it. That's what I want you to do. Do the same thing with my newsletters. All right. I'm paying other people thousands of dollars to coach me on this so I can learn. I'm transferring knowledge to you guys, both with the show and with the newsletter. So use those as templates, but use that PS section super effectively to promote discovery calls or sell things. Okay. Next pro tip. This is a big one. Try different content strategies until you find the one that seems to work, but also don't be afraid to change it up. All right. So we have to find the flow that works for you with the format of your newsletter. It could be short. It could be a deep dive. You could leverage other people. So what my email coach, Mike, does is he does deep dives of other people's newsletter strategies. So he'll focus on what they're doing and unpack the whole thing and kind of pull bullet points away from that. So let's say you're in the health and fitness space, and maybe you do a deep dive each week on a different nutrition style, or somebody that is coaching in different nutrition styles. So like, here's what so-and-so has done with his intermittent fasting, blah, blah, blah strategy, deep dive. Or maybe you're in marketing and you unpack a different social media influencer and their strategy every single week. So this doesn't have to be content that's coming out of your brain necessarily. Like, I've got so many ideas and so many things. That's what I choose to do because that's what I like to do. That's what I'm good at. But if you feel like you're kind of newer in the game, like, Adam, what am I talking about my newsletter? I'm kind of still figuring things out. Then leverage other people's stuff and go, who's doing this well? Let me study that and unpack it in a weekly newsletter. And the value add is you're going, hey, I'm going out and finding the best of the best that are doing this thing because I'm on this journey, and probably so are you as a reader / listener or whatever. And I'm going to do the work. I'm going to break down all the bullet points, all the important action steps, and I'm going to unpack it in my weekly newsletter. That's what Coach Mike does a lot of the times. All right. So keep that in mind. I'm going to cover the different sections of my newsletter. There's a lot. Now, let me tell you, you can start way, way, way more simple. And mine only got this robust in the last couple of months. All right. I will proudly say that I've recorded my God, I'm still in podcast brain over here. I've written a newsletter every week since 2018. I've had, my podcast weekly streak is good since 2015. I'm like the Cal Ripken for those baseball fans of content. I don't miss a day. So I've never missed a podcast episode release since 2015, written a newsletter every single week since 2018. Consistency always wins. So, all right, let me go through let's see, 4 or 5. I've got 10 sections, I think, of my newsletter. Again, don't let this overwhelm you. It's just an example. And maybe you do like 3 of these things or 2 of these things. All right, so I start off with my warm open. I timestamp it. I let you guys know I didn't use AI to use this. I'm writing it at 8:41 a.m., blah, blah, blah. I let you know about how my day is going. Then I go into the deep dive. I used to feel a lot of pressure to make the deep dive super related to the podcast episode of the week. I've broken away from that, and that's kind of freed me a little bit. Freed me up. I've been able to be more creative. Again, my whole philosophy is I just need to teach you all a simple strategy that's going to help you make more money with your online business. And simple strategies might be a podcast growth strategy because that's going to help you make more money with your online business, or a client acquisition strategy, or a newsletter strategy, or whatever. All right. So that's what I dive deep on. The next segment is my latest podcasting business school episode info. I usually try to tie it in a little bit. Then client testimonial, then podcast launch tip, and I tie it into my podcast launch tip latest episode. Then we got the Download Growth Club question of the week. So again, another example of hyperlinking. I get questions from people in the Download Growth Club. I answer them inside the newsletter. Anytime I type the word Download Growth Club, that is hyperlinked to the sales page for the Download Growth Club. All right. So that's another example. But upcoming events, places I'm speaking at, free workshops I'm doing, paid things I'm doing, that's where I'll put my April workshop. That's where I'll put my April certification information. But also I'm speaking at Content Entrepreneur Expo in August. I'll put that there. I'll put any free workshops I'm hosting. I'll be doing another one in March here, so stay tuned on that. Then I've got a section that features my main social media hub, which is Threads. So for you, that might be Instagram. I like this one for a lot of people. Whatever you define as your number one social media, find a way to highlight that on your newsletter. So my main social media platform is Threads. So I have a little blurb that's like, what's happening on Threads this week? I've had several posts. Here are 3 that people seem to be liking. My 3 most liked or commented on or most viewed threads. And I just type a little highlight or an intro of like, here's the main hook. Here's a link to the post if you want to see what I put there. So that way it ties people in. My content hub is my podcast, my newsletter, and Threads. And within this newsletter, I'm promoting all those things. They all work together. All right. Then after the Threads section, I have a warm close. I've been experimenting with some funny content about referrals. Like in the last one I typed up, I was like, scientific studies show that if you share my podcast or my newsletter link with a friend, your podcast downloads will increase by 17.2%. It's science. Don't argue with it. So little things like that. We'll see. We'll see if that sticks or not. I'm just trying stuff out. Then after the warm close, I sign off, and then the PS section at the bottom. All right. So I just gave you like 10 sections. Again, you could be deep dive and then episode promo and then a social media highlight. All right. You don't have to do all this. Just know that. Now, last thing, as far as pro tips for creating a high value newsletter, you know what's coming. Be careful with AI. All right. Leverage it. Don't leverage it. I choose not to. That's my thing, because I feel like it's an important promise of my brand that you know that I spent the time to create that content for you. To me, that makes it more meaningful, makes it more special. All right. To me, I'm not saying that's right or wrong. Just be careful with AI. And I'll just leave it this. Make sure your newsletter has a soul. Make sure, because people will be able to tell. I get newsletters in the podcasting industry that I know are 100% written by AI. And it has a little bit different feel. All right. So just be careful with that. Leverage it to make things more efficient. I would try to make at least one section of your newsletter not AI. I would challenge you to do that. So yeah, let's make sure that the newsletter has a soul. All right. Next section of what we're going to talk about here today is if your open rate is below 40% for your newsletter. Just a couple quick things that will help, that I know will help. So let's say you start sending your weekly newsletter and you got a 7% open rate or a 12% open rate or anything below 40%, really. All right, 3 things. Number 1, I want you to take all the images out of your newsletter. If your open rate is below 40, if you're over 40, do whatever. Do you. It's working. But if you're below that 40%, take all the images out. You'll notice I don't think I've ever put an image in mine, but especially if you have a header image, that's probably the thing that's kicking it to spam. So take that off, and it will probably help immediately. And by a header image, that's like the brand logo at the top of your email. If you got a ton of images, that's probably negatively affecting the open rate, because spam filters see that as like, ooh, these aren't normal emails. These are marketing emails because there's all these pictures in them. Because when you're emailing your cousin, you don't have 42 pictures of different things embedded in the email. That's not what the spam filter sees as a normal email. So that's something that you can do. Another thing is you can limit links. I used to be the one link guy, and I've just blown that to pieces. My God, I probably have 40 links in mine with all the hyperlinks and things like that. But I have built up my engagement and open rate and click-through rate. So if, again, you're below that 40%, I would start limiting the links and go, okay, I'm only going to hyperlink 5 things or 3 things or the most important couple of things. So that's just something to consider. The last thing is I want you to cycle your send to list. What I mean by that, and I still do this, is let's look at like a 3 or 4 week cycle. The first week, send it to your entire list. And different email service providers will provide different ways to do this. So I am inside of Kajabi, and first part of the cycle, just send it to everybody. Next week, I'll send it to people that have opened an email in the last 90 days. The next week, I'll send it to people that have opened an email in the last 60 days. The next week, I'll send it out to anybody that's opened an email in the last 30 days. And then I'll cycle back to send it to everybody. And as you narrow it down, your open rate naturally goes up, because these are the people that are really active and they're opening your emails. And this helps with your open rate in the way that email service providers like Google or whatever are the way that they're viewing you as, okay, this person's emails are being opened. They get the thumbs up. All right. I lost focus there for a second because I mentioned Gmail. I posted on Threads about a week ago, and I started just a ruckus on Threads because I was like, I don't know if it's just me or what, but anytime that I got somebody that pops up on my discovery call calendar and they got an email address that's Hotmail or Yahoo, I'm just like, there is no way this damn person is showing up. And so many people got pissed at me. So many people got upset because I have a Hotmail. I'm very reliable. I'm like, I don't know. I just haven't seen it. I haven't seen it. You know, I asked one of them, like, did you have to ask your mom to get off of the phone so you could check your email? And did it make that weird buzzing and clicking sound? So I poked the hornet's nest of, I apologize to all the Yahoo and Hotmail users. I'm sure you got great MySpace accounts also, but yeah, that was a funny moment. Yeah, I like Gmail and things like that. All right, so cycling through your send to list, that will really help quite a bit. So those are 3 things you can do to help out if your newsletter open rate is below 40%. Let's talk about a couple easy ways to promote your newsletter as a lead magnet. Obviously, one is like, okay, promote it on your show. Let it be known. Like, hey, I'm getting serious about this. Here's what I'm going to deliver every single week. Here's the link. Bam. Put it out there in your show. Sponsor your show with that for a few weeks. That'll help ramp things up. Now, 2 specific things you can do on social media. One is a day before social media post where you preview what you're going to talk about on your newsletter release day. So for me, newsletters go out Thursday morning. So on Wednesday, I'll go on Threads, maybe even Instagram stories, and I'll go, hey, here's an issue that people are dealing with in the podcasting or online business building space. And tomorrow morning, I'm doing a deep dive where I unpack X, Y, and Z. If you're not on my email list, you will miss out. So here's the link to get on my email list. And I'll post the direct link right there. So that's Wednesday, the day before the newsletter goes live. You can do that on Instagram stories with a direct link. I use different like Canva templates, or you can just be a face to camera. Hey, same thing. Explain what it's going to be about, why they should want in. If you're not on my newsletter list, you need to be. Go get it. Get there before Thursday. So there's a little bit of FOMO. There's a deadline. Like, this is coming out tomorrow. If you're not on the list, you don't get it. So those are a couple easy ways to promote your newsletter as a lead magnet. I'm bringing back the super team of Matt and Megan Shields. They helped me figure out Facebook and Instagram ads for episode promotion. I've challenged them again for a newsletter promotion strategy. I got some tips from Coach Mike Romaine as well. I think we're to come up with something really solid for a newsletter growth strategy as well for Facebook and Instagram ads. So stay tuned on that. We'll probably bring them back on and do an episode all about that. So that's another thing. You can run ads to your opt-in page and get newsletter subscribers that way. All right. One last tip, a simple monetization strategy for your newsletter. And this is something I just recently started doing, and it's already working. So I'm very happy with this. And I think a lot of you could do this, but it's just adding a special thank you offer. So what happens now is when people go to my opt-in page, if you guys want to see my opt-in page and use that as a template, it's super simple. As always, just go to podcastingbusiness.school/news. The link will be in the show notes, as always there. So you go there, you see the opt-in page, name, email, hit enter, and boom, it goes to the thank you page. On the thank you page, I've got a one-time special offer that they can't get anywhere else. It's not listed on my website. There's no email funnel to it. There's nothing. I've been testing different things, but what's been working really well is, for me, it's like something that's if they bought it normally, it's in the $500 or more value, and I'm charging $97 or less. And once they click off that page, it just goes away. They don't get access to that. They can't even find it. All right. So I know a lot of you do have PDFs and mini courses and different things that you may want to dust off, package together and go, this is a $600 value. And I'm going to give it to you today for $42. But once you click off this page, it's gone. You can't get it at all anywhere else. And you just got to cry about it, because you can't get access to it. So that's something that's a simple, passive. It's like a little mini funnel in itself. They opt into your newsletter. They're going to be getting the newsletter. I send them an email to, kind of bring them into the loop, but it's just one. I don't even do a warming sequence or anything with my people that opt into my newsletter. It's like, hey, Thursday, you're going to be getting it. Here's what you can expect. And yeah, so I put that little special opt-in thank you offer. Hey, I appreciate you joining my newsletter and trusting me with your email inbox. I'm going to deliver some value every single Thursday. As a one-time offer, you get this It's normally $500. Right now it's $97, and take it or leave it. And it works pretty well. Now, thinking down the road, if we start running ads, paid ads, Facebook and Instagram ads to our newsletter, that's the way it can start paying for itself. Where you got this thing that you're selling for $27 and people are buying that, then you take that money, reinvest it into the ads that brings more people to your list, more people buy, and the cycle just kind of builds itself. So something to think about. And that is my last simple strategy of the episode. Again, my goal right now, I wasn't going to talk about this, but I'm going to talk about it. The last several years, I've really obsessed with the journey. And I just really rack my brain. I get frustrated with myself about I have to find the cookie cutter journey for my listener and go, okay, they all have to follow this exact path. Or somebody joins my online business academy for podcasters. And I'm like, here's step A, here's step B, here's C. And I would get frustrated. And I talked to the group about this a couple of weeks ago. I would get really frustrated with myself as a coach. I'm like, nobody fits the cookie cutter that I'm trying to create. And so I gave up on that idea. And I know everybody's starting at a different experience level, at a different beginning point. Some people have offers, some people don't. Some people have $5,000 offers that they're closing regularly and they just need help optimizing, and other people are just getting their brand going. So my goal with the show, my goal when people hire me now isn't to fit everybody into a cookie cutter thing that I created. It's to put the right tools and the right questions in front of you to challenge you to continue to build your brand, to build your content strategy with your podcast, and to build your online business. So that's why I've been on this tool creation streak, and I'm just putting the right stuff, asking the right question in front of you all so that you can level up continuously from the point that you're currently at. So once I let that cookie cutter thing go, things have gotten a lot better. And that pressure is off to discover the magical formula that works for everybody, because I don't think that exists. So letting that go has been a huge game changer for me. And I think you're just going to continue to get better and better content, whether it's with the show, whether it's with my newsletter, or whether we're hanging out on threads for friends on Threads, aka Freds, then you're getting good stuff. So I hope that you enjoyed this longer deep dive episode. If you're not on my email list, you need to go get that newsletter, podcastingbusiness.school/news. The link is in the show notes. It's also one of the featured 3 buttons, one of the golden 3 buttons on my website. Go get it and unpack and pay attention to what I'm doing. All right. And start applying things to your own business, to your own newsletter, to your own podcast. All right, Pod Pals, I appreciate you. I'm going to send you out into the world wishing you health, happiness, and many downloads. I'll see you on the next episode. If you need a little bit of help with your podcast launch, growth, or monetization strategy, head on over to my website, www.podcastingbusiness.school, and get signed up for a free podcast profit potential discovery call. During this free 20-minute discovery call session, I'm going to analyze your podcasting brand and tell you where I think you're missing on an opportunity for profits. Next, I'm going to tell you exactly what I suggest that you do as your next step. If I've got an offer that would help you accelerate the process, we can discuss working together as well. So head on over to my website, www.podcastingbusiness.school, and click on the Discovery Call button to schedule your free Podcast Profit Potential Discovery Call.